Hola.
How are you?
I'm good, Mario. How about you?
Hot.
Not that hot.
Well, if you're on the street, on the road, it's
Oh,
hot.
you know what? I was in the valley, was it Wednesday? It's so significantly hotter. I mean,
Yes,
you can really feel it. You
I
go to
know
the
when you go
building.
to Gabriela, just going into the 170 a few
Yeah,
miles, and it's
it's
hot.
yeah, it's so different. So I was driving with the top down on my car. I had to put the top back on. I was schmelting from the sun.
But you can drive with the air conditioning on
Yeah, I
also.
do that too sometimes, but the sun was very strong. It was just hot.
Hmm. Hi, Johnny.
Hey,
Welcome
Johnny,
back.
Hi, how's it going?
How was the Big Apple?
Ah, horrible. I hate that place.
what were you doing there? Simcha there?
Yeah, yeah, it never changes. The place gets worse.
Oh, I don't know how people can live in the city. The suburbs I can understand, but to live in Manhattan, it's I don't know.
I'm not even talking about Manhattan.
Where
Being
were you?
Brooklyn, Queens.
Oh,
I was by the airport.
oh.
I stayed in I didn't know. I stayed in a complex.
Yeah.
There is a Hyatt Regency. It's called Ozone Park. Um,
That's a part of Queens, yeah.
yeah, so it's a whole complex which is still in development. So the hotel is part of the casino. There's a whole casino there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a Hyatt Regency.
Interesting.
It's a huge place. Then
Yeah.
there's gonna be another hotel.
Was there a Simcha there?
No, the Simcha wasn't there. The Simcha was, there in McDonald Avenue, there in Brooklyn.
Oh.
One of those schools, that have the hall.
Yeah, you sit down and all of a sudden you're someplace else.
Yeah,
They move you around.
they start moving you, pushing you around, moving mechitzas, moving tables. It's like it's unbelievable. The parking, the parking is it's a narrow street
Yeah.
filled with buses from Ger. I think that's part of Ger, the school. There's no place to park. It's anyhow. It's a dump. It's a place.
The dub. Who got married?
Lynn's nephew.
Oh.
Bina's youngest son.
Oh, okay, Mazel tov.
Yeah, thank you.
How was the food?
Anyhow, huh?
Was the food good?
The best in the world.
It was not the best in the world, but it's just standard, very standard.
Yeah.
It was. I think it was a Tacona wedding, so like pretty standard. But I tell you what, I rented a car, then I decided, let me try to get away with Ubers or Lyft.
Yeah.
Almost every driver I had, I think every driver except for one was from an Arab country, was a Muslim.
Yeah, Muhammad. Yeah.
Almost all of them. Only one was Andres, which was like Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
I tell you, you don't know who you get into with this drive.
Yeah, right. You
And
say one wrong word.
Huh?
You say one wrong word or something.
Yeah, no, you don't speak. That's it. You shut up. And they don't have Waymos. They introducing Waymos. They got a permission to start using Waymos.
Oh yeah.
But with one condition, there has to be a driver in the car. There has to be a person in the car. So what's the purpose of the Waymo?
Yeah.
What's the point, right? Yeah. Initially has to be that way. Stupid.
I mean, besides the passenger, there has to have somebody from the company sitting there.
Yeah. There has to be like a driver, a technician, they call it. It's not a driver, it's a technician. So anyhow, but everywhere you go, there's construction. Always. Some roads are constantly under construction. The BQE, the Belt Parkway, all of them.
Talking about Waymo, I saw some blue-colored Waymo station wagons or vans here in the village.
That's a new thing. They said it's coming. So you saw it already?
Yeah,
I saw two or three.
So anyhow,
Last week is hot.
Is it gonna be very hot tomorrow?
Yeah, high 80s or 90s.
Whatever you guys want to do is fine with me. You'd rather learn at night at 9 o'clock?
Yeah, that thing would be great. So
Okay,
Abe can take part and all
Fine.
that.
fine. We'll do it at 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock tomorrow.
Okay,
That's fine.
great.
Okay.
Ryan Zipsik.
We're on what? 71?
2.
72. Okay. Umay lo nitan lishavon. What does it mean that it can't be returned? The Eina b'Torah shavon. It was not really stolen, so it's not really. There's no parsha of giving it back. Ihachi ema sefer. What do you mean? We said if a goy steals from a Jew, uba chavero, which is also a goy, v'not lemimenu neragaleh. The second goy who steals from the first goy is also killed. So bishma reisha. Why was the first goy killed mishum b'tzara Yisrael? Even though, right, it was less than Sheva Pruta, but he bothered the Jew. Elasefa my avid. So, but if Mashiach is not koine, the second goy who took it from the first goy, what wrong did he do? El shmami no Mashiach b'goy koine. When he's moishechet to himself, he acquires it, and the first guy also acquired it. So there's a real gzeila, so shmami no. That comes out that Mashiach b'goy is koine. Ahu gavre d'armei l'chavre. Person said to his friend, "Imazvina lo laha'ara l'cha mizvadmina lo." You know, if I sell this piece of land, I'm going to sell it to you. Also, zavnalin shachrini. End up selling it to somebody else. Our Rav Yosef Kana Kama, the first person that he had said he was giving it to or selling it to, he has first claim. Armle abai v'alo posak. They didn't agree on a price. How could you say that he made a deal with the first guy if there's no price? So, and uminab tamer to kol heicha de lo posak lo ikona. Where do you see evidence in the Mishnaitic literature that if you didn't set a price, there's no kinyan? It's not. You're selling wine to a goy and posak, and you set a price, even though you didn't measure it out yet. Dam of mutorim. It's as if the sale took place, and he now has acquired the money because it's not yain nesach, because he didn't. The goy had no connection to it, but you see the sale occurs with just psika. Modad achloi posak. If he measured it out, then it becomes yain nesach and dam of asurin. So my avi Allah. So my avi Allah kidekamrina. That's clear that that setting the price is what's koivea the sale. So the Gemara says maybe no dilma chumra yain nesach shiny. Maybe that's we're matpid by yain nesach, but other things maybe psika does not. Setting the price doesn't necessarily close the deal. Torshma. Amrav Idi Baravin Uvda Bei Rav Chizda. There was a case by Rav Chizda. Rav Chizda had a case by Rav Huna. Upashta Me'adistan. And they resolved their issue from the following Mishnah. Moshe Chamarav Upo'alav. A person did Mashicha on the sellers, donkeys, and workers that were carrying fruit. Vichnisan L'soch Beso. And he brought those donkeys and workers and everything into his house. Now, whether he set a price before they measured, whether they measured, in either case, lo kana. There's no kinyan. And both the seller and the buyer can go back because there was no kinyan made on the payrolls. But pirkan, if you unloaded the payrolls, then that is a kinyan. And then posak, actually modad, if you set a price, even though you didn't measure, So then it's this good sale, and ain't shneim yichon lachzerbo. Modad achloi pasuk. If they measured but they didn't set a price, shneim yichon lachzerbo. But here we see that setting the price makes the kinyan. That's like a buyer. That if I sell my land, I will sell it to you for $100. Went ahead and sold it to another guy for 120. The first guy has the claim on the sale because it was a kinyan. Maskal Rav Yaakov ben Arpkod, Hi Zuzi Ansu. The fact that he was given more money, sort of, he was an oinus. It sort of forced him. And therefore, the second sale has precedence. V'hilchas of Rav Yaakov ben Arpkod. And the halach is like that. So the din is, if you make a deal with one guy for $100, and then somebody else comes and gives him 120, the second guy gets the deal. It's like he was an onus. Amr lay. So the buyer says, the seller says to the buyer, Kiddushaymi batlosa, I'm going to sell you at a price that a bezdin of 3 will estimate the price. Then afilu tremi gutlosa, if 2 out of the 3 agree to a certain price, that's the price he'll accept. But if he says kide amri bitlasa, not kide shaymi bitlasa, but kide amri bitlasa, the 3 people have to say it, then ada amri bitlasa, it needs 3 people to say it. If he says kide shaymi barba, the way 4 people estimate, then ada amri barba, then he has to wait until 4 of them say it. And certainly, if he said that they have to say it. If he says the price will be the way 3 estimate. 3 people came and estimated. And somebody else said, I'll bring you 3 who are more expert. Amra Papa Dina who the Ma'akev, he can prevent the other 3 from coming because they already had 3. So, but Maskil Rav Huna Bereder Rav Yoshua. What do you mean? Maybe he'll be Machzik in the second group. That once he said, I will rely on 3, and 3 came and gave the estimation, we go after the first 3. Mishnah. Notalas ameshapech. This is like when you have a barrel of wine, and then somebody comes to buy wine, they would dish out the wine from the barrel using this kli into a new kli. That's the meshapech. So he takes the meshapech, umodad l'toch tzluchiso shel nachri, and he measures 6 ounces into the vessel of a goy. V'chazer umodad l'toch tzluchiso shel Yisrael. Then a Jew comes along and he uses the same meshapech, and he measured out 6 ounces to the Jew. Im yesh bo ikvus yayin, if there's some residual wine left, then osir, because there was some mixture between the yain of the goys and his. Another case, ama'ara mikli al kli, you pour from one kli into the other. Eshi ir mimenu, the kli that was poured from mutter. The esi ir letocho osir. So the Gemara explains, it's not also. Nitzuk, that's when you pour from one kli to another, then you have a fluid pouring. Does that create a connection between the fluid in the lower kli and the upper kli? That's called nitzuk. Bakatapris, water that's flowing on an incline. Umashke, an area of fluidity that is toivpeach, that makes something else wet when it touches it. In those three cases, Eino chibur lo letuma v'lo letara. It doesn't create a chibur, a connection for tuma v'tara. Ha'ashbaron, fluid that gathers in one place. So that is chibur letuma l'tahara. Amravuna nitzuk v'katapras u'mashka toifeach. Those three examples, which we said is not a chibur for tuma v'tara, is a chibur le'inyan yain nesach. So, like for example, when you pour from yain nesach into another kli or whatever, there's already a connection during the pouring. They asked Ravuna, where do you get this? That nitzuk katapras and mashka toifech is a chibur for yain nesach. Ilay medisnan. From the following Mishnah, Hanitzuk v'katapras u'mashka toifech eno chibur lo l'tumah v'lo. So we are medayek l'tumah v'tahara u'do lo havi chibur. For tumah v'tahara, it's not a connection. Hala in yain nesach havi chibur. So from here we seem to deduce that nitzuk would work, but then we quote the seifa of the very same Mishnah, Ema seifa. Ha'ashbaron, which is gathered fluid. We say chibur l'tumah l'tahara. L'tumah l'tahara hu davik chibur. Halin yain nesach lavik chibur. So it's this Mishnah is logically contrary. The two parts of the Mishnah oppose each other, and therefore elameho like elamishmamine. We can't medayik from it. So we try to bring another right. It's not. Not alasamashpe. You take this measuring kli. You measure 6 ounces for the vessel of a goy. And then you do it and you pour it into a kli of a Jew. We said if in the meshapech there's some fluid left over from what he poured into the goy. Now the question is, how did it become usher? He didn't touch the meshapech of the yain nefel, but he poured. So that's nitzuk. Right, the act of pouring the wine into the kli of the goy. So once it hits the kli of the goy, it becomes yain nesach. So the pouring now connects to the upper kli that you poured from, and that the Gemara is now proving that's how the isser occurred. Right? Ha'ik v'siyam b'may kol mitzvah b'nitzuk. Shma mina nitzik chibur. So Tani Rav Chia, no. Shepachseu tzluchiso. The bottom tzluchis got filled so much that it overflowed into the mashpech itself. So you don't have to come on to nitzuk. So we don't have a proof regarding nitzuk. For example, throughout Shas, in every sugya we're in, we're always bringing up this question of nitzuk, but we never have proof for it. And this Gemara doesn't solve the question either. Okay. So then aval lo pachsos tzluchisumai. So what do you say? If the bottom kli did not overfill, you just filled half of it. So we would say what? That the remaining yayin in the measuring vessel would be low, would be not usher, then tifshit. Then why don't you have the answer? Shenitzik ain't a chibur. So fine, you're going to tell me nitzik is not chibur. So then let's come up with an answer that we have a definitive answer that nitzik is ain't a chibur. The Gemara says low there. There's no proof. Because we know for sure that if it backfilled, so that there was so much yain that it filled into the other, then it's usher. But we're still a question mark, nitzuk tiboy. The question of nitzuk, connecting the upper and the lower kli through nitzuk, through the flow, that remains a question. Okay, Toshma. We said in the second case of the Mishnah, you pour from one kli to the other. Esha ma'ar mimenu, the kli that you poured from, mutter. So, had the beni, so, fine, that's the fluid that remains in the kli. But for example, that which was in the air being poured, that means the beni, osir. Shmamina nitzuk chibur. How did it become usher? Through nitzuk. So the Gemara says, "I nitzach chibur, afilu d'gavei demonanami litzer." So the nitzach the isser should flow back completely to the kli that you poured from. Why do you say that yain is mutter? So it can't be nitzach. So haloi kasha de komaktiv ktufe. There wasn't a complete stream that connected. It was like drop by drop. Drop by drop doesn't create nitzuk. So mikol makom, we've learned that the drop by drop yain that's flowing through the air, but even before it hits the bottom kli, is usher, and therefore nitzuk chibur. So the Gemara pushes that away as well. Ulu tameich, based on that, ema seifa, es she'ir l'socha hu de usher. When the vessel that you poured it into, that is usher. But then we're medai kada beni shari. It's only the yayin that ends up in the bottom of the kli that belongs to the goy that is usher. But we're going to be medai from there that the wine that's flowing is mutter. So we've shown that you can't prove either side from that Mishnah either. So we've gone through two Mishnahs. We did not have an answer about nitzuk. Toshma. We're going to bring another brisa. You have a barrel of wine, you pour the wine into a pit. In the pit is prohibited wine. The fluid that is pouring, even before it hits the bottom of the bore, is already usher. Well, that seems to imply that nitzuk is chibur. It became prohibited even before it entered the bore. Kirgama Rav Sheshes, begoy ha'ma'ara. It was a goy was pouring the barrel into the pit. And the asi makoichay, because the wine is flowing, makoich of the goy, so that's why it's usher. Then if the goy picked up the barrel and poured it, then all the wine in the barrel should be usher. So the Gemara says no. This whole thing that the pouring and the koich of the goy we usher, it's only rabbanan. How do nafik lavroi? The rabbanan are goyzer, the yain that flows out, goes rabbanan. How do la goy? But the yayin that remains in the barrel itself remains mutter. Loy goes rabbanan. So very interesting Gemara here. Attempts to prove and unsuccessful proofs. Okay. Amar lahu Rav Chizda lanu savisa. Rav Chizda said to the following sellers of wine, Hikal yisachamra, when you're measuring out wine to goyim, legoyim, and their kelim, katfi ktufi, that don't pour in one stream, do it bit. Pour, like we learned, because it doesn't create nitzuk, and the whole shail of nitzuk doesn't come in. Or inami nefutzi, or like dump it in one dump. That's another thing, because there won't be a good stream that connects them. Amalahu rava lahanu shfuchoi. There were these workers whose job it was to pour yayin from kli to kli. So he told them, Kishafchinu chamra, when you're pouring wine, lo likariv goy l'saya b'ydecho. Don't let a non-Jew come close to help you. Dima mishtalai v'shazisu le'alei. Maybe they'll touch the kli and they'll help you. The ka'asi mikoyach v'asra, and the wine will flow through their koch and will become prohibited. Who the gaver doesn't come begishta ubaskishta. He used like not a straw, but like tubes. You understand what they did? They put a tube. They would have multiple tubes coming out of a barrel, and then you would suck on one of the tubes, and that would start the flow of wine. Okay, that's called gishta ubas gishta. Also, goy anach yodei agishta. A goy came and put his hand on one of these straws. Asrei Rava l'kula chamra. Rava prohibited the whole wine, even from the barrel of wine that they were drawing the wine from. Amle Rav Papa l'Rava, va'ami l'Ravada bar Masla l'Rava, va'ami l'Ravina l'Rava. B'mai, how is this becoming prohibited? B'nitzuk, that this flow that's within the straw is becoming usher because the goy touched it. So shmami no nitzik chibur. So that's what we've been struggling with for the whole daf. And maybe from here's the proof that if you're saying if the goy touched these tubes, it prohibits the wine even in the barrel that it's drawing the wine from. And you're saying it's through nitzuk that it's usher. So nitzuk is chibur. Mor says no. Shani hasam. Kul al magishta bas gishta gorer. It's the wine is flowing through these tubes. And the Gemara, it takes it as if he touched the whole wine. Right, so the Shulchan Aruch says, they made it from metal or glass. Some of it is put into the wine, and then you sort of suck on it, and then the wine pours through capillary action. And then the goy comes and he puts his finger on that tube. Oh, and he prevents it from flowing, then Nessar.
Then he
Because
touches
it's
the
all
wine.
flowing through the koch of that tube, and as if he touched the whole thing.
But Ernie,
Yes.
the wine flowing through a tube, what's the difference from that on pouring it? They both have connections, one wine to the flowing wine.
No, if the goy pours it, then we understand the concept of koach. But here, this is a series of tubes that you start, somebody blows on it or inhales, and like creates a vacuum, and starts the suction, and then it
Yeah.
starts flowing. Now, it could be that the goy is holding, the tube, preventing it from flowing. And since the whole flow of that wine is coming through that koach, it's as if he touched everything. That's how the Gemara learns.
Mhm.
But he,
Ernie,
but he didn't create the flow.
that's okay, but the flow is happening, and now he's disturbing the flow.
Yeah, but
Rashi says, Sharei me'ela voila. It's coming by itself. V'havale kinogeh b'chavis mamish. And therefore, it's like the goy touching the barrel itself. The havile kechavis arichta. They view the tube as part of the barrel.
right.
That's basically how Rashi's learning. Rashi was, of course, very familiar with this. Rashi himself was a vintner. I'm sure he knew all of these techniques. Aram Marzutra Bred Rav Nachman. Kanishknin. Listen to this. This was some kind of kli that had multiple straws, and multiple people could drink wine from this kli at the same time. That's what this is. That's a kanishknin. By sucking. Shari, a Jew and a goy can drink it from the kli together. Hanimili de kodem posak. As long as the Jews stop drinking, and then the goy stops drinking. Avalim kodem posak goy. But if the goy started drinking and he stopped, low. Because we're concerned that there's some wine in his mouth that's going to regurgitate back into the kli. And that's going to prohibit the wine that's there. So if the Jew drinks first, then it's not a problem.
I don't understand. He can regurgitate at any time. In other words, the Jew has to drink first, stop, and then
Yes.
the guy drinks.
Yes.
But then the rest of the
But
wine,
if the goy drank first, you can't.
no, but then the rest of the wine, after the guy drinks, the rest of the wine is yain neshek.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. That's correct. That's what this halacha is telling you. But technically, they could both drink from the kli as long as the Jew did it first.
Okay.
That's what it said. In Echanami, it's exactly what you said. Rava bar Avuna ikla beresh galusa. Rava visited the exilarch Sharalu lemishte bekanishkin, and they had this type of kli set up, and they allowed them to drink wine with goyim using this. In fact, he did it himself. Okay.
They were drinking simultaneously. It says here in the translation.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then the juice stops.
Yeah, but how do you drink simultaneously? While he's drinking, he can spit it back in the.
I guess then while you're drinking, you can't spit it. Drinking, it's going one way. Then when he stops, that's the problem. Then it regurgitates at that point.
Okay.
It's
The
difficult.
Shulchan Aruch said,